So, hey guys, in our part one, we have covered our discussion on the GSTR-9. We have covered the various tables, various parts of GSTR-9, what the basic meanings of GSTR-9, that is annual return. And now, in this particular video, that means part two, will cover on the annual reconciliation statement, that is GSTR-9C. If the turnover of a taxpayer exceeds 5 crore or more, in such a situation, there will be a requirement to file the GSTR-9C as well. This GSTR-9C is self-certified. There is no requirement of any certificate of chartered accountant or cost management accountant. This should be certified by the taxpayer itself. So this is a very much important statement in this particular type of reconciliation statement, as the name suggests, reconciliation statement. In this statement, you are supposed to reconcile the outward liability, the input tax credit, the tax liability with the books of accounts. That means the audited financial statement. Now there is one question that, sir, audited financial statement is prepared on pen based. Okay, but the GSTR-9C is GSTN based. In such a scenario, when I need to compare my turnover of GST records with the audited financial statement, how it is possible? So for that purpose, there is a one mechanism that you need to extract the turnover of a specific GSTN from the pen-based audited financial statement. And then after compare that extracted turnover with the GSTN common portal turnover specifically dedicated to that GST number. That is what is the mechanism. Okay. As in our GSTR-9, we have covered the complete GSTR-9 in certain tables, certain parts. In case of GSTR-9C, we have also certain tables, certain part. And we are supposed to discuss each and every part in a detailed way. The same mechanism will follow. I am not supposed to read the each and every line of this book. Okay. This book is available with you. So the point is that I am going to explain you the things. And when you will read this particular book, this is my guarantee to you, you will be in a situation to understand each and every single line. But definitely you should read, because when you will read, you will enjoy the learning. You will evaluate your performance. You can easily file your GSTR-9 and 9C effectively, efficiently, in a perfect way. That is what is the point we need to do. Okay. And also try to suggest others to go through with these particular type of videos. You may gift this book to your other professional friends, because in the current scenario, in the recent time, this is the best gift for the professional. Okay. Not an advertisement. This is just a example. Okay, you can do it. Now let's start our discussion on this GSTR-9C with the full of power, with the full of energy. Now, sir, first basic details. As in case of our analysis of GSTR-9, we have certain basic details. So the same is there. In case of GSTR-9C, there is certain basic details. And these basic details are automatically auto-drafted, auto-populated. Just a part of our discussion, I am briefly going to discuss on the tabs of basic details. First part is financial year, the specific financial year for which you are filing this GSTR-9C, that is reconciliation statement. GSTN of the entity for which you are filing this GSTR-9C. The legal name taken from your PAN card, the trade name, if any, and in this particular reconciliation statement, they are asking that, are you liable to audit under any act, like Companies Act, like Income Tax Act? Are you liable to audit? So in such a situation, you need to select yes, because you are providing the audited financial statement, and a particular financial statement will be called as audited when the audit has been done in other act. So there may be chances that your books has already been audited under Income Tax Act or Companies Act. Accordingly, you need to select the relevant clause here. So this is the very basic detail which is there. Now, second part, reconciliation of your turnover. So in such a scenario, I am just going to discuss, because there are multiple clauses are there. I am going to discuss on each and every clause. okay, with relevant example and with relevant explanation, so that you can easily find out the things and you can easily file the GSTR-9C return. Okay, let's start our discussion on this part 2. So the first point in this turnover reconciliation table, you need to mention the turnover as per your audited financial statement of that specific GSTN. Now, the same thing is applicable. Suppose you have 3 to 4 branches in different states. In that case, income tax audit is single on pen based, but you need to file the GSTR-9C for each and every pen GSTN. So in such a scenario, you need to extract the turnover of that specific GSTN and put that specific turnover over in this particular part number second, table number 5, point number A. That is what is the mechanism we need to do. Okay, now next part, the same thing is mentioned in these type of notes. आप ऐसा ना सोचे I am going to skip these things, not at all. During my oral conversation with you, all these things has already been included. You just need to go through with it, you will definitely get it. Okay, the second point, if there will be any unbilled revenue at the beginning of the financial year, unbilled means there will be any revenue which you have received but you have not booked due to accrual system of accounting. In such a scenario, you just need to put it here related to the unbilled revenue at the beginning of the financial year, you need to add. Or if there will be any unbilled revenue at the end, in such a scenario you need to less it, so that your net figure will be there related to unbilled revenue. Okay, maximum chances in case of construction industry, these type of unbilled revenue and unadjusted advances will be there. Okay, so we just need to keep this thing in our mind related to unbilled revenue and unadjusted advances. This is the unadjusted advances, value of all the advances for which GST has already been paid, but the same has not been recognized as revenue in the audited financial statement, because you are comparing your audited sales with your GSTR-9 sales. Okay, so in such a scenario, you have already made the payment of GST on account of advances, but you have not booked the revenue in your books of accounts. Okay, because bill has not been generated, this is just an advance. So in such a situation, definitely there will be a difference between the turnover as per audited financial statement and as per GSTR-9, because in your GSTR-9, turnover is high with comparison to the turnover which is declared in the audited financial statement. So in such a situation, you need to make the necessary adjustment while comparing the turnover. That is what is the thing we need to keep in our mind. Next point, deemed supply under schedule number 1, which should be declared here. Sir, what do you mean by the deemed supply? Whenever there will be a particular supply for which no consideration has been received, that means disposal of business assets. So disposal of business assets, if you are going to show for no consideration, in that case, you are not going to book it in the audited financial statement. But as we all know that whenever there will be a disposal of business assets and you are going to do it without consideration, in such a situation also valuation should be decided through the valuation rules, and accordingly GST has to be paid on that. So in such a situation, the taxpayer has already made the payment on that particular type of supply under GST, but the same has not been there in the audited financial statement. Hence, there will be a difference. So we need to adjust it here. There may be chances if there will be any supply between the distinct person and related party. That means inter-branch transactions. In such a scenario, हो सकता है पेन बेस्ड टर्नओवर में वो वहां पर इंक्लूड नहीं होता हो, but in case of GST, if there will be any inter-branch transaction, there is requirement to pay GST on that particular transaction. So GST pay you have made the payment of tax, but under audited financial statement you don't supposed to record it as a sales. In that case also there may be chances of difference, so you need to show it under deemed supply. There may be transaction between principal and agent. There may be transaction of import of service. In such a scenario, you just need to record it in the specific tab so that your reconciliation will be there from the books of accounts with comparison to GSTR-9. And that is what is the basic motto of this tab. Next. अभी तक हम लोगों ने अनबिल्ड रेवेन्यू, unadjusted advances and the deemed supply. And why we are adjusting it? Because we are reconciling the audited financial turnover and the turnover which is declared in GSTR-9. And as we all know that in my GSTR-9 I supposed to report the turnover only on which I am paying the GST. But in my audited financial statement, there may be chances I am going to report certain other turnover, so there may be chances of differences. Okay. So in such a scenario, we need to prepare this type of reconciliation statement, and for that purpose, these type of various clauses are there for the reconciliation. Okay. Now, if there will be any credit note issued after the end of financial year, but reflected in the annual return. Suppose any credit note which you have issued after 31st March of the respective financial year. In such a scenario, the same will not be there in the financial statement, but the same is included in the GST for the adjustment of GST figure. In such a situation, there will be difference between the turnover as per GSTR-9 and as per the books of accounts. So we just need to deduct it so that the same will be reconciled. So the purpose is that यहां पर हुआ क्या, उन लोगों ने आइडेंटिफाई किया, जीएसटी ऑथोरिटीज हैड आइडेंटिफाइड सर्टेन रीजंस ऑफ द डिफरेंसेस बिटवीन टर्नओवर ऑफ द ऑडिटेड फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट और द जीएसटी टर्नओवर, एंड दे आइडेंटिफाइड दीज टाइप ऑफ रीजंस, एंड अकॉर्डिंगली दे हैव मेड दिस रिकंसिलेशन कि ये रीजन हो सकते हैं डिफरेंसेस के, सो वी शुड रिकॉर्ड द रीजंस. Trade discount accounted for in the financial statement but not permissible under GST. Suppose the discount term has been decided after the invoice, or the trade discount which is not included in the GST regime. In such a scenario, that discount has been booked in the books of accounts, but that discount is not there on the GSTN records. In such a situation, the sales on GSTN records is higher with comparison to the sales which is there in the books of accounts, or I can use the word tax liability. Okay, so but in case of trade discount which is not permissible under the GST, there will be no any effect on the tax liability. So in such a situation, there will be a difference between the value. So to reconcile both the turnover, this type of adjustment is required with respect to the trade discount. Okay, I suppose the reasons are also clear in your mind that why these type of clauses are there related to the reconciliation of audited financial statement and the reconciliation of the GSTR-9. Unbilled revenue at the end of financial year and unbilled advances, unadjusted advances at the end of financial year, you need to make the necessary adjustment for the same. Credit note accounted for in the audited financial statement but not permissible under GST. There may be chances of certain credit notes which is not as per the terms of GST, so you're not supposed to include it while calculating the GST turnover, or while filing the GSTR-9, or while filing the GSTR-1 or 3B. But the taxpayer has to include these type of things, these type of credit note, while preparing the audited financial statement. So in such a situation, also there is a requirement of reconciliation. And for that purpose, we have this specific 5G. Then adjustment on account of supply of goods by special economic zone to domestic tariff area. As we all know that if there will be any supply from SEZ to DTA, in that case, there will be no any effect under GST. But in books of accounts, you have to book the same. So in such a situation, there will be a difference between books of accounts and the GST turnover. So for that purpose, there is a requirement of reconciliation. Okay. Next, turnover for the period under composition scheme. So when a particular person who has opted for the composition scheme during a particular financial year, and in the same financial year that person is converted into regular taxable person, in such a situation, when the person was under composition scheme, at that time we all know that he has filed the CMP-08 and paid the relevant taxes to the government. The same will not affect the annual return, due to there will be a difference between the turnover of annual return and the financial statement. Hence, there is a requirement of reconciliation in case of a person who has opted for the composition as well as for the regular during a particular specific period. Then adjustment on account of section 15 and various rules thereunder. Section 15 is related to valuation and various rules. We have rule number 27 till 32 related to various situations. So in such a situation, there may be chances that a transaction which is reported in the financial statement on such a value, but as per GST valuation rules, the same is not acceptable. Due to that reason, there will be a difference between the turnover of audited financial statement and the turnover of GST records. And whenever there will be a difference, there will be a requirement of reconciliation. And if there will be any other reason which is not specified above, due to that there will be any difference between the GSTR turnover and the books of accounts, then after also we need to show. And also there may be chances there will be certain difference due to foreign exchange fluctuations. As we all know that in case of GST, if there will be any changes in price due to foreign exchange fluctuations, we need to adjust it while calculating the valuation, while calculating the value on which GST should be charged. But the same has not been affect the financial statement, there may be chances. So in such a situation, there may be chances of difference in both the turnover. So we need to do the reconciliation with the relevant figure. That is what is the logic. If there will be any other reason which is not listed above, in that case we need to report it here. अगर आपके डिफरेंस अभी भी आ रहा है और यू आर नॉट एबल टू फाइंड आउट द रीजन, इन सच अ सिचुएशन द सेम इज टू बी रिपोर्टेड इन 5/4 so that your reconciliation will be done. Just try to understand with an example. Okay, I am just going to share with you one example, and through the example I am trying to explain you the things. Okay, now this table is like turnover as per audited financial statement. Turnover as per audited financial statement. Suppose this is the turnover. Okay, and you need to compare turnover as per GSTR-9, that is annual return. अभी आप कंपेयर करने के लिए जाओगे, there may be chances of differences. Okay, now they have find out certain reasons for the differences, that is unbilled revenue, unadjusted advances. There may be difference due to trade discount, due to credit note, due to valuation, due to forex. So these are probable reasons. They have identified that these are the reason for which there may be chances. And lastly, they have given if there will be any reason other than listed above, in that case you should put. Sir, just give me one example for the any other reason. Sir, there may be chances that when I am putting the audited financial statement ka turnover over here, suppose I have taken the turnover from the trading account. In my profit and loss account, there is a income from rental income. Under GST, I need to make the payment for rental income as well. Okay, so the same is included in GSTR-9, but the same is not included in the turnover of audited financial statement because I have taken it from the trading account. So in such a situation, I need to show that amount in the any other reason which is not listed above. And जब ये reconciliation खत्म हो जाता है ना, at the end of reconciliation, they are asking for the reason of the differences. Under A column, you may provide your reason that the difference or the amount which is shown in point number 5/0, which is due to the rental income which is shown in the profit and loss account, but we have taken the turnover as per the audited financial statement from the trading account. So that is what is the basic reason. After that, if there will be any difference, in that case you also need to put the reasons. You have the reasons tab also there, you can write the reason for the differences. That is what is my reconciliation of turnover. ये तो हो गया, you have reconciled the complete turnover. Now the point is that you need to reconcile the taxable turnover as well. Sir, what do you mean by the taxable turnover? Sir, there may be chances. I am making the supply of taxable goods, or I am making the supply of exempted goods or non-GST goods. So in part second, table number 5, we have covered the reconciliation of whole turnover which is shown in the audited financial statement with the GSTR-9. And in my GSTR-9, also the nil rated non-GST exempted turnover is included. And in my audited financial, the same is also included. So now point is that I just need to identify the taxable turnover and how I can do so. So for that purpose, we have a reconciliation. You just need to show here the turnover after adjustment from P. That means the final turnover which you are getting from the audited financial statement, and from that turnover, when you will reduce the exempted supply, nil rated supply, non-GST supply, no supply. And then after you need to compare the same with the taxable turnover of GSTR-9. Under GSTR-9, first we have calculated the taxable turnover. Okay. Then after we have calculated the exempted, nil rated and related credit and debit note. So we are supposed to reconcile the taxable turnover accordingly. That is what is the format. So conclusively, we can say in form GSTR-9C, in form GSTR-9C, first we need to reconcile the total turnover. And total turnover is reconciled from the audited financial statement and the GSTR-9. Then after we need to reconcile the taxable turnover. And for that purpose of taxable turnover, we'll take the total turnover of books of accounts. Okay. We'll reduce it by the exempted turnover, the nil rated turnover, the RCM wala turnover and non-GST turnover. And then after, we'll compare this turnover with the taxable turnover of GSTR-9 so that our taxable turnover will be completed. Now, we have reconciled the turnover in the GSTR-9C. Now, point is that after reconciliation of turnover in GSTR-9C, we also need to reconcile the tax liability. The turnover is perfect in 9C, but the point is that whether the taxpayer has made the payment of tax correctly or not. कहीं ऐसा तो नहीं है as per books of accounts tax is 5 lakh rupees under IGST, but that person has paid only 4,50,000 rupees. So there is requirement of reconciliation of tax amount also, because the end focus of the government is on the revenue collection, and revenue collection will only be through the tax payment. So the third part is related to comparison of tax liability. Just first we'll try to understand through the example. Sir, are you enjoying the session? While watching this recorded video, okay, if you are enjoying the session, if you will enjoy the session, if you will enjoy the learning in such a situation, I just request you all have our WhatsApp number, official WhatsApp number. Okay, I have already shared with you. This is the number. Whenever you will watch this recorded video, just do one thing. Text on this number, sir, enjoy the learning. Really, this will be a great appreciation for me when my team member will come to me and say that, sir, we have received 500 messages from various participants that enjoying the learning. So just try to do it. Really, this will be a biggest gift from your side to me. Okay. So just try, और आप भी actively इसको learn कर पाओगे. And if you have any question, then this number is for question, for your feedback, for your complaint, for your suggestion. Okay. So you can do anything on this particular number professionally. Okay, sir. So let's start our discussion on the comparison of tax liability with the books of accounts and the GSTR-9. So when we are comparing the tax liability, so first focus of government is that you should compare the amount on which you have already made the payment of tax. That means in your GSTR-9, there was one specific table related to tax liability. आपको पता है? We have covered that discussion as well. You may change the tax payable, but other amount you cannot change. Okay? So in this particular column of GSTR-9C related to the comparison of tax liability, they will take the tax payable from that tax payable tab of GSTR-9. Okay? And they will compare this with the books of accounts tax liability. For that purpose, they have developed one mechanism. Okay? They have developed one specific mechanism. They have designed this table that you need to put the taxable value, IGST, CGST, SGST. Okay. And you need to present the rate wise liability, 5%, under reverse charge 5%, 12% under reverse charge 12%, 18% under reverse charge 18%, 28% under reverse charge 28%, 0.10% in case of deemed export. So they have developed this mechanism. They are demanding from us that you need to present the rate-wise outward liability from your books of accounts. For that purpose, there is a question that, sir, how we can calculate this rate-wise liability? So for that purpose, I am suggesting that you should download or generate the complete GSTR-1 from the books of accounts of your client. Okay. In that GSTR-1, you just need to put certain filters on the GST number or the rate. On GST number, जैसे suppose the party is related to Rajasthan, just put it 08. In such a situation, you will get all the GSTN of which began from 08. And you just need to put a filter on rate. So first you need to select rate 5%. So 5% wale ki taxable value you just need to put here. And as you have already selected 08 and party is also from Rajasthan, so every liability will be C and S. Same, then select the rate 12%, 18%, 28%. Then after you need to select the GSTN other than 08. That means all other GSTN will be there. And in such a situation, the IGST should be charged. So now you need to put the filter on rate 5% wala taxable value IGST, 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 IGST. Accordingly, you need to calculate the rate-wise liability from the GSTR-1, but just ensure that when you will generate the GSTR-1 from the books of accounts of your client, the total value of your GSTR-1 should be reconciled with the turnover which is there in the books of accounts of your client. कहीं ऐसा नहीं हो while generating the GSTR-1 due to certain technical issues, there is certain error in the reconciliation of the turnover in the books itself. So your data which you are going to put in GSTR-9C will not be corrected. Okay. After this data from the books of accounts, नीचे आपने लिख दिया tax payable as per GSTR-9. And then after they are going to compare this. Suppose if there is any difference, in such a situation, they will ask from you the reasons for the differences. You just need to put the reasons of the differences one by one. One number, this is the reason. Second number, this is the reason. Also, I request that clearly mention the reason of differences. Okay, if there will be any additional attachment, just put here that annexure number 1, calculation attached in annexure number 1, and upload it with the documents which you are going to upload with GSTR-9C. That is what is the point we need to keep in our mind. Just check this table from the PDF module from this books. In this book, each and everything has been provided in a very detailed way. Okay. I am going to explain you in a very simplified language, in a very lucid language. Okay. But when you will read this particular book, you will get everything. Okay. But first you need to watch this video so that it will be very easy for you to learn this book, to memorize this book. And this is my guarantee to you. Whenever you will read this particular book, it will be very easy for you and you will easily memorize these type of provisions, the preparation of GSTR-9 and 9C. So this is the table for rate wise 5%, 5%, 12%, 18%, 28%, 3% in case of jewelry, gold items, 0.25, 0.10, others, late fees, and then after the same is compared from GSTR-9, and if there will be any difference in such a situation, you need to provide the reasons for the differences. That is what is the thing we need to do in this particular tax liability wali table. This will be there. For the unreconciled payment, you need to put the reason number 1, reason number 2, reason number 3. That is what is the thing we need to do in this specific table. Okay. There is one practical example is also there related to the reconciliation of tax liability. You can check. Okay. Although we have already covered the same in our example. Now, if there will be any additional amount payable due to that reconciliation of tax liability, okay, which we have already done, due to that particular thing, suppose there is any tax payable but you have not made the payment and you supposed to make the payment in GSTR-9C, in that case you just need to put it here and you need to put it through, pay it through the DRC03 through the cash ledger. But I request that when you want to file the GSTR-9, So before filing the GSTR-9, just ready the GSTR-9C as well. First prepare all these type of returns, compare both these returns, then after file the GSTR-9. Try to show the additional liability in GSTR-9, pay the same, and clear all these things in GSTR-9, so that in your 9C you just need to provide the reconciliation. There will be no any other pendency at your end in the GSTR-9C. That is what is the thing we need to do. Okay. Now, this is the example of rate-wise liability. So you can go through with this particular example. Now, fourth reconciliation, which is very much simple. Okay. There is one specific point that if you have prepared your GSTR-9 return in an efficient way, in an effective way, in that case, you can easily file your GSTR-9C. There will be no any issue while filing the GSTR-9C if you have prepared and filed your GSTR-9 in an efficient way, because this is just a reconciliation, nothing more than that. Okay. You are providing the books data, you are comparing the same with the GSTR-9. So part number 4, in this part, taxpayer supposed to provide the reconciliation of input tax credit which is claimed in the GSTR-9 return, and the same should be reconciled with the books of accounts ITC. Now, how you are going to take the input tax credit from the books of accounts? So for that purpose, download the GSTR-3B return consolidated for the year. Just compare the same with the purchase register and expenses register ITC. If you assure that the ITC is matching with the purchase and expenditure register with the GSTR-3B generated, in that case, the same figure is to be put in this particular tab related to the specific financial year. Now, there may be chances that during that particular financial year, suppose you are filing the GSTR-9C return of financial year 2023-24, there may be chances related to financial year 22-23, you have claimed a certain input tax credit. Okay. Or there may be chances that you have reversed certain input tax credit related to financial year 22-23. In such a situation, if you have claimed, in that case, put it here. If you have reversed related to financial year 22-23 during the financial year 23-24, in that case, put the figure in negative. That is what is the way which is available with us. The second point, there may be chances that certain input tax credit which is related to financial year 23-24, you have claimed in 2024-25. Or there may be chances that certain input tax credit which is related to 23-24, but you have claimed and you have reversed it in 2024-25. In such a situation, you need to put the figure in negative, so that your audited financial turnover will be adjusted. That means आपके financial statement में the input tax credit which you are reflecting here from the financial statement, that is completely related to the financial year, that is 23-24. But in your GSTR-9, there may be chances certain input tax credit which is related to last year, certain reversal related to last year, certain adjustment related to subsequent financial year. So in such a situation, how your GSTR-9 ki input tax credit and books ki input tax credit will be comparable? So for that purpose, first you need to make necessary adjustment in your books input tax credit, so that the prima facie reconciliation will be there from the books and the GSTR-9 input tax credit. जैसे ही आपकी ऑडिटेड फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट में से आप कोई certain input tax credit related to last year and subsequent financial year adjustment kar loge, in that case the same will be comparable, and then after you need to compare it with the input tax credit of GSTR-9. And now if there will be any difference in such a situation, you need to provide the reason of the differences. There may be chances that you have forgot to reverse certain input tax credit. In such a scenario, you have to reverse it in GSTR-9C. There may be chances that you have forgot to claim certain input tax credit. In such a situation, you need to put a note below the input tax credit reconciliation that we forgot to claim the input tax credit, and the timeline of section 16 subsection 4 has already been expired. Hence, the same input tax credit has already been lapsed. That type of note also you need to make, so that if there will be any litigation in future, if there will be any notice in future, they can easily check the same and will be in situation to provide the response in a very well way. Now, part number 5, which is related to the headwise comparison of input tax credit as per books of accounts and as per GSTR-9. This table is now optional. Okay, you may file, you may not file. But as per my advice, you should ready this particular type of table. Okay, you are filing or not, this is completely depend on you. But you should ready this particular table. And in maximum software, this is system generated. When you will generate the input tax credit item wise from the accounting software, you will get the complete list item wise. Manufacturing expense related input tax credit, purchase related input tax credit, capital goods related input tax credit, freight related input tax credit. So you will get the PDF file very easily from the software. So in this particular table, you just need to do one thing. As per your books of accounts, you need to bifurcate the input tax credit under the various head. That means the input tax credit which you have shown in the part number 4 related to the input tax credit as per audited financial year or audited financial statement for the year. At that particular part, you have shown the consolidated amount of input tax credit in the as per books of accounts. But in this particular part, you need to show the bifurcation wise input tax credit. That means head wise, expenditure wise input tax credit in this particular table. Okay. And you need to compare this input tax credit with your GSTR-9. And the reason which you have mentioned in the part 4, the same reason will be there. उसके अलावा कोई reason हो नहीं सकता, because जब ऊपर आपने consolidated input tax credit match करवा ली, when you have reconciled the consolidated input tax credit in such a situation, when you are provide the bifurcation of input tax credit, then the same should be matched. Or at that time, if there were certain differences, the same differences will be here, and you just need to make the notes of it. Okay. So this is also a very good way so that you can provide the bifurcation. Also, nowadays in form number 3CD, we also need to provide the clause wise or expenditure wise bifurcation of input tax credit in form number 3CD of tax audit. So if we are preparing this, or if we are preparing at that time in such a scenario, we can use the same information for both the purposes. That is what is the point which I want to convey with you. Now, due to any reconciliation related differences related to input tax credit, if there will be any tax payable, suppose there is any excess input tax credit has been claimed, the same is not rectified within the timeline of section 16 subsection 4. The taxpayer is not rectified while filing the GSTR-9, and when you are filing the GSTR-9C return, at that time you have rectified the same. In such a situation, you need to put the relevant things in your table number 16 if there will be any payable, so that you can pay through DRC-03. Then, if there will be any additional liability which you have not declared in any GSTR-3B, any GSTR-1, any GSTR-9, you want to report it in your GSTR-9C now. In such a situation, you need to put it here. Example, suppose there may be certain interest received, trade interest received, and the same is booked in the profit and loss account. But the taxpayer has not made the payment on this trade interest of GST in the GSTR-3B while filing the GSTR-9 as well. While filing the GSTR-9C, you found there is a trade interest which is received and the same is shown in the profit and loss account. So GST should be charged because this is a trade interest, not a financial interest. So in such a situation, you are supposed to make that payment with interest in the GSTR-9C, and you need to show that additional liability in this particular tab. Rate wise presentation. Also, if there will be any interest and penalty applicable, show it and pay it. Whenever you will declare any additional liability in this specific table, in such a situation, the same should be paid through DRC-03. Is that okay? Then after, verification should be there, and verification should be done by the taxpayer only. Okay. With the GSTR-9C, you need to attach certain attachments. The first attachment in your audited financial statement, that means audited profit and loss account, audited balance sheet, and the form number 3CD. Suppose while providing the reconciliation, if there will be requirement of any attachment or annexure which you want to attach with the GSTR-9C, in such a situation, you can attach the same. Okay. So there are option is available. You can attach the documents, but just keep in mind whatever document you are supposed to attach with the GSTR-9C, duly verified, cross check. And while filing the GSTR-9C return, you just need to keep one thing in your mind, that every data should be reconciled with your books of accounts. There should be no any difference with the books of accounts, whether it is a outward liability, whether it is outward supply, whether it is an input tax credit, whether it is a rate wise liability, everything should be perfect. So conclusively, we can say the part of GSTR-9 is important. If you have filed the GSTR-9 in a correct manner, in such a situation, the GSTR-9C will be very easily prepared. That is what is the point we need to keep in our mind. Now, we'll discuss on certain questions. Okay. And I can say this is the checklist based on questions. If you will follow this checklist, in such a situation, this is the assurance from my side that your GSTR-9 and 9C will be filed in a very correct way. And this is also based on very lawful manner. इसमें जितने भी क्वेश्चन पूछे गए, all these questions are based on the provision of law, based on the compliances. If you will file this particular type of questionnaire before preparing the GSTR-9 and 9C, your return will be in a perfect way. There will be no any question on your GSTR-9 and 9C. Just go through with certain questions which is there in this checklist. Okay, I suppose you have learned the concept of GSTR-9C. आपको पता चला होगा अनएडजस्टेड एडवांसेस क्या है, ट्रेड डिस्काउंट क्या है, क्रेडिट नोट का इफेक्ट क्या है, while calculating the turnover reconciliation, the deemed supply. Okay, now have you checked the GST registration certificate? Have you checked the registration details that this person is a registered person, there is a factory, warehouse, godown? Have you checked that the GSTN board has been displayed in front of the factory, in front of the business premises? This is also a very important thing, because GST departmental authority is charging journal penalty for non-compliance of this specific thing. Or this is a very important thing, because when you will ask these type of things to your client will say, yeah, my chartered accountant is filing this 9 and 9C in a very correct way. He is asking multiple questions from me. He is checking each and everything very deeply. Now, if he is asking 10,000 rupees, 15,000 rupees for filing 9 and 9C, then this is the right of this person. और वही अगर आप क्या करते हो, you are collecting the data from 3B and 1, reconcile, file the GSTR-9 and 9C without asking a single question from your client. When you will raise a bill of 7,000 rupees from your client for GSTR-9 and 9C, client will say, sir, we are paying the fees for filing GSTR 3B and 1, and this annual return and 9C is just a reconciliation of that. So this is your responsibility. You need to file it with your GSTR 3B and 1. Why there is requirement of any additional fees? So this is a very important point we need to keep in our mind. And we all know that the maximum things are based on our presentation. If you are presenting in a very well way, in that case, you can earn a very huge amount. And also you can create your reputation. We are here not just for earning. We are here for getting our reputation as well. We are here to recognize ourselves. We are here to recognize that Mr. Sachin Jain is practicing in the field of GST. He is master in this particular type of field. That type of reputation we require, and for that purpose we need to do certain additional things. Okay, and the point is that this is just my experience. बहुत छोटी उम्र में हूं, तो मेरा कोई बहुत ज्यादा कोई बड़ा experience नहीं है, but in case of 70 to 80% of the litigation, because I am completely dealing in the litigations, and in my day-to-day life I am handling multiple litigations. Okay, so the point is that maximum of the returns, that is GSTR-9 and 9C, which is filed, are wrongly. Wrong data is presented in 9 and 9C. The requirement is that एक बार अगर आपने 3B में कोई फिगर गलत पुट कर दिया, 1 में कोई फिगर गलत पुट कर दिया, this is also okay. But while filing the GSTR-9 and 9C, there is requirement that your 9 and 9C should be in a very perfect way. There should not be a single mistake in your GSTR-9 and 9C. Because while handling any litigation, if the adjudicating authorities not agree with your contention, in such a scenario, I need to file the appeal before the appellant authority, or I need to go for appellant tribunal or high court. In front of the appellant tribunal, appellant authority, high court, your annual return, your reconciliation statement will be the base for everything. And if there will be any question on your base in such a situation, how one can litigate in your matter. That is what is the thing we need to keep in our mind. If there will be any additional place of business, we just need to check that the additional place is added or not. Just when you will check the profit and loss account, suppose there is any job work expenses is booked in the profit and loss account, ask your client from where you are handling this job work. वो बोलेगा Mr. X is doing job work for me, and that person is not registered. When a particular person is not registered and that person is handling your job work, in such a situation, the same should be added as an additional place of business. Otherwise, the departmental authority will treat it as sales and charge the GST. So that type of consultancy we should provide, because we are not merely the written filers. We are the base of GST. Our work is to implement that GST law. Okay. And also train your articles, train your staff related to that. Check if there is any input tax credit has been transferred. In such a situation, the separate registration as an input service distributor has been taken or not. If there is any changes, suppose there is a change in principal place of business, additional place of business, there is change in director, partner. In such a situation, amendment has been filed or not. First, we need to identify these things. This is related to my registration. Because when I am handling a particular work of my client, just very clearly speaking, very frankly speaking, that we are handling the work of our client. आपके साथ भी होता होगा. I suppose आप agree करेंगे. In case of 50 to 60% clients, we have no idea of the exact nature of that industry for which we are doing the work. मैन्युफैक्चरिंग करता है टेक्सटाइल में करता क्या है, वी हैव नो आइडिया, बिकॉज कभी हमने बात करने की कोशिश ही नहीं की हमारे क्लाइंट से कि व्हाट इज द नेचर ऑफ योर बिजनेस, हाउ यू कैन ग्रो योर बिजनेस. सो दीज टाइप ऑफ थिंग्स आर वेरी मच रिक्वायर्ड फॉर अवर ग्रोथ एज वेल. एक मात्र प्रोफेशन हमारा, दिस इज सिंगल प्रोफेशन इन द वर्ल्ड. हमारे प्रोफेशन में और दूसरे के प्रोफेशन में बस एक ही फर्क है, जब कोई सामने वाला ग्रो करता है ना, तो दूसरे वालों को जेलेसी होती है, दूसरे लोगों को जेलेसी होती है. इफ समवन इज गोइंग टू ग्रो, इन दैट केस अदर वन विल फील जेलेसी. बट इन अवर प्रोफेशन, डे और नाइट हम लोग एक ही प्रे करते हैं. वी आर प्रेइंग फॉर ओनली वन थिंग, दैट अवर क्लाइंट विल ग्रो. Because if that person will grow, in that case, I will automatically grow. So this is a single profession in the world who is praying for the growth of the client. So we just need to focus on the growth of our client. Our growth will automatically be there. हम हमेशा चाहते हैं हमारा क्लाइंट लिटिगेशन में नहीं फंसे. लिटिगेशन में फंसा है तो as soon as possible we'll try to reduce that litigation, to recover that litigation. All these type of things are there in our profession. So proud to be a professional in the field of taxation. Invoicing documentation, just check that your client is generating the tax invoice, bill of supply in a correct way. All these required particulars, all these required fields are there on that particular invoice. Just need to check that the tax invoice for supply of goods is issued on or before the removal or delivery of the goods. What is the mechanism followed by the client? Or you need not to focus it on regularly. Once you have checked it in a year, it will be an assurance for you whether the invoice has been generated within 30 days, whether your client is dealing in the exempted or non-taxable goods or not. And if yes, then the person has issued the bill of supply. कहीं वो tax invoice पे ही तो goods नहीं बेचे जा रहा है, that thing we need to check. If the taxpayer has taken the new registration, in such a situation, the revised invoice has already been issued for the supply which is made during the period of application of GST registration. If there will be any advance received in such a situation, the receipt voucher has been generated. If there will be any refund of advance in such a situation, refund voucher has been generated or not. In case of reverse charge mechanism, when the taxpayer is paying the tax under reverse charge mechanism and claiming the input tax credit, in such a situation, whether that person has enabled the mechanism of self invoicing or not. कहीं ऐसा तो नहीं वो self invoicing वाला mechanism follow ही नहीं कर रहा है. The debit and credit note which is issued are in a perfect way or not, which is directly linked with the invoices or not. Okay. Check correctness of tax invoice and bill of supply with the appropriate supply registered. We just need to ensure if there will be any tax invoice has been cancelled in such a situation, whether these things are genuine or not. Whatever will be the accounting software, there is a configuration available. or nowadays audit trail is generated in maximum number of accounting softwares. Okay, so the point is that you just need to check the cancelled invoices during the financial year. Suppose there is a huge number of cancelled invoices, in that case you need to directly ask your client why there is a huge number of cancelled invoices. Although this is not part of your GSTR-9 and 9C, but this is a part of compliances, because you are doing the annual closing of your client. So we need to be very much careful from that perspective. And this is also a very important thing. And although we all know that nowadays every accounting software is efficient to generate multiple reports, we just need to identify and select the important reports, the correct reports, and based on that we need to prepare our question. We need to discuss the same with our client. If there will be any invoice come bill of supply has been issued, in such a situation check the scenario. Transport documents maintain हो रहे हैं या फिर नहीं हो रहे हैं. When the client is claiming the input tax credit, then the goods has already been received or not. कहीं ऐसा तो नहीं है taxpayer is claiming the input tax credit merely on the basis of invoices. That type of thing we also need to confirm. Whether the delivery challan e-way bill register has been maintained or not. कहीं ऐसा तो नहीं unnecessary e-way bill generate हो रहे हैं. Series of documents has been maintained or not, and the same has been provided in the GSTR-1 return or not. If there will be any goods which is sent to the job worker place, in such a situation the ITC 04 has been filed or not. There will be any situation when the goods has been directly sent from the job worker place for the sale, that type of scenario will be there or not. Or in that scenario, what type of mechanism that person is going to follow. If there will be any job work and the goods has been returned, in such a situation what was the mechanism that was followed by the taxpayer, that type of thing we just need to ensure. We just need to ensure that if our client is making the supply, in that case what type of supplies in which our client is involved, whether taxable, exempted, non-GST. Because if we found that our client is dealing is taxable as well as exempted, in that case we need to focus on reversal as per rule number 42 43 as well. मुझे आइडिया ही नहीं है कि मेरा क्लाइंट कोई एग्जेम्प्टेड प्रोडक्ट में डील करा है, इन दैट केस हाउ आई कैन गो फॉर रिवर्सल फॉर 42 43. In 30 to 40% cases during the business audit, during the departmental authority, they have checked and they have found that the rule 42 43 is applicable for that particular industry, but that industry has not followed the same. So we need to be very much careful from that perspective. We also need to check if that person has made the deemed export during the particular financial year. In that case, necessary documents has been maintained or not, because we have a time is very limited. वरना मैं आपको पूरा GST law अगर हम लोग cover करें, in such a scenario there is requirement of a lot of things that should be learned. In case of deemed export, there is requirement to maintain certain documents. We need to take the letter of undertaking. We need to take one declaration that that person has made the export within 90 days. We need to take the import export code that is called as IEC code. We also need to check that the supply has been determined in the correct way or not, because GST will only be charged when a particular activity or transaction will be classified as a supply. So we just need to ensure that, sir, this particular transaction is a supply or not. Whether the particular supply is an interstate supply, whether the same is a zero rated supply or not, or if the supply is a zero rated supply made to a special economic zone, in such a situation whether the proper documentation has been taken or not. In case of export of goods, the same has been reconciled or cross verified from the IEC gate website or not. In case of export of services, the same has been re-verified from the FIRC or not. Foreign inward remittance certificate which is received from the bank, or bank realization or reconciliation certificate or confirmation, we need to check. In case of capital goods, we need to check how the input tax credit has been claimed. In case of sale of vehicle, whether the GST has been charged on the margin money or not. In case of sale of capital goods, whether the reversal of input tax credit has been done or not. If there will be these type of activities or transaction, जब मैं मेरा 9 और 9C फाइल कर रहा हूं, at that time I need to go through with the financial statement, and I found that during this financial year there is a sale of capital assets. At the same time मेरे माइंड में ट्रिगर हो जाना चाहिए, I need to check the input reversal, I need to check whether the GST has been paid on the correct amount or not. If there will be any sale of vehicle, in that case at the same time I need to check that the GST has been paid on the margin money or not, or the margin money has been calculated in the correct way or not, because we are closing the same. मेरली मैं आपको ये आकर के बता दूं, दिस इज द टेबल ऑफ GSTR-9, दिस इज द टेबल ऑफ GSTR-9C, these type of data you need to feed in GSTR-9 and 9C, then the accountant can easily file the GSTR-9 and 9C. There will be no any role of chartered accountant or GST professional or tax professional. If as a professional, as a chartered accountant, as a GST practitioner, I am filing the return, in that case I need to file the return with the basic concept of law, with the advanced concept of law. Without that, I should not file any single return. This is clear cut advisory or suggestion from my side. Because if there will be any litigation in future, your client will directly come to you and say, Mr. Sachin, how you have filed the return? So, मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट रिक्वायरमेंट इज दैट आज के टाइम में हम लोग फोकस कर रहे हैं, आप चेक करो यूट्यूब पे मैक्सिमम जो सर्चेज है, हाउ टू फाइल GSTR-9, हाउ टू फाइल GSTR-9C, what the data is to be put in what column in GSTR-9 and 9C, and maximum professional are trying to provide you the details that this type of detail in 9 and 9C. Why, how I can cross verify that detail? What are the provisions I need to keep in my mind while filing the data in 9 and 9C? वरना केवल डेटा ही पुट करना है तो वो अकाउंटेंट जो क्लाइंट के वहां काम कर रहा है, दैट पर्सन इज एफिशिएंट टू प्रिपेयर द सेम. एंड ऑल्सो, as we all know, every accounting software is efficient. That accounting software can automatically generate the pre-drafted, pre-generated 9 and 9C. You just need to click and file it. Just point is that we need to check it with comparison to provision of law. With respect to provision of law, that is what is the thing we need to keep in our mind. If there will be any sale of land, in such a situation, 1/3 of land has been excluded. That means land plus building. The classification is perfect or not. We also need to check if there is any deemed supply as per schedule number 1. We have already covered. In that case, we need to check. So these type of things we just need to ensure. In case of time of supply, our main focus is on input tax credit. Is it okay? But the point is that there are a lot of area on which we need to focus, like time of supply, place of supply, value of supply, the refund under GST, the audit and assessment under GST, the very basic sections of GST, we need to focus on that as well. With respect to time of supply, we need to decide that the time of supply in case of supply of goods has been correctly determined. In case of supply of services, correctly determined. The time of supply, if there will be any change in rate of tax during a particular supply, section 14 of CGST Act. In such a situation, the time of supply has been decided in the correct way. If there will be a specific transaction in such a situation, there will be a continuous supply of goods or services. In that case, we need to check that the time of supply has been completely or correctly determined or not. आप कहेंगे what will be the use of this time of supply? Because the GST liability मुझे कब पे करना है, that will be decided through the time of supply only. If there will be any sales which is, if there will be any goods which is sale or sent on approval basis, in such a situation we need to check whether the time period of 6 months has been lapsed or not. ऐसी कई सारी चीजें हैं जो टैक्सेशन प्रोविजन से रिलेटेड, मोस्ट प्रोबेबली देयर विल बी नो एनी आइडिया टू द accountant or to the taxpayer. This is our responsibility to provide the same. With relation to the input tax credit, we need to check all the required documents is available with that particular person. The same is available in the GSTR-2B. So for that purpose, we need to prepare the invoice-wise reconciliation of input tax credit with comparison to GSTR-2B. We also need to check that the goods has already been received or not. We also need to check whether the taxpayer has claimed the blocked credit under section number 17, subsection 5 or not. We also need to check all the monthly return has been filed by the taxpayer or not. We also need to check related to the set of related provisions. Input output has been correctly set off or not. Whether the input tax credit related to capital goods has been correctly accounted or not. If there will be any goods which is sent on the job work, in such a situation, what the treatment of input tax credit has been done. If there will be any purchase and if the payment has not been made to the supplier within 180 days, in such a situation, input tax credit has been reversed or not. In case of capital goods, whether the correct treatment of depreciation and the input tax credit has been made or not, that type of thing we need to check. In case of there will be any credit note, the input tax credit has been reversed or not. The correct bifurcation of eligible, ineligible, blocked credit has been done or not. The reversal as per rule number 42, 43 in case of capital goods or input service exempted supply or taxable has been done or not. whether the rule number 37, whether the rule number 39 in case of input service distributor has been followed or not, whether the input tax credit proper reconciliation has been done or not. All these type of things we just need to confirm. मैं बहुत ब्रीफली आपको कई सारे पॉइंट इस कोर्स के अंदर कवर करने की कोशिश कर रहा हूं, ताकि सो दैट व्हेन यू विल फाइल द जीएसटीआर 9 and 9C रिटर्न, यू कैन फोकस ऑन दीज स्पेसिफिक पॉइंट्स, यू कैन फोकस ऑन दीज स्पेसिफिक टाइप ऑफ थिंग्स, so that your filing of GSTR-9 and 9C will be in a very perfect and very efficient way. If there will be an input service distributor, that person is going to distribute the input tax credit to various branches because that person is doing the centralized buying. In such a situation, that person is taken the separate registration or not as an input service distributor. They are transferring the input tax credit as a eligible or ineligible input tax credit. The calculation of turnover, because in case of ISD, the input tax credit will be distributed in the ratio of the turnover. So the turnover has been calculated in the perfect way or not. That type of thing we just need to ensure. We also need to check the classification, that the classification of goods and services is perfect or not, as per schedule, as per notification or not. The HSN classification, the SSC classification is perfect or not. If there will be any specific advance ruling is applicable in such a scenario, the same has been followed or not. We also need to check that the return has been filed or not in a correct way. The GSTR 9 is filed on the basis of GSTR 3B or GSTR 1. If there will be any delay in filing of return like GSTR 3B, GSTR 1, in such a situation, the interest and late fees has already been paid or not. Because while filing the annual return, you need to check all the data, all the GSTR 3B or 1. Or when I am going to check the GSTR 3B or 1, I just need to ensure that, sir, मैं 9 at the end of year file कर रहा हूं, so I need to check the 3B has been filed on timely way or not. Or if there will be any 3B which was not filed on timely, okay, that means delayed filing. In such a situation, we need to check whether the interest has been paid or not. और कई बार होता क्या है, 3B ऑटोमेटिकली डिमांड करता नहीं इंटरेस्ट की, and we are not paying the same. In such a situation, there may be litigation in future. Your return will be selected for the scrutiny. So we can make the payment while filing the annual return. These type of things we need to ensure. GST collection जो collect हुआ है, rate is correct or not, the amount collected which has been paid to the government or not, whether the place of supply has been correctly determined or not. That means kahin the taxpayer has charged IGST instead of CGST or SGST. So we just need to ensure these type of things. Whether the reverse charge mechanism as per section number 9 subsection 3, government has specified a list of goods or services on which RCM is applicable. So when you will check the financial statement, just check if there will be any purchase or if there will be any expenditure booked which is covered under section number 9 subsection 3. In such a situation, whether the RCM has been paid or not, that type of thing we just need to ensure. Under RCM, self invoicing has been done or not, जितना मैंने टैक्स का पेमेंट किया है, whether the same input tax credit has been claimed or not. We also need to check that the value of supply has been correctly determined or not as per section number 15. And if the section number 15 is not applicable, in such a situation, the rule number 27, 28, 29, 30, 31A or 32 has been followed or not. If there will be any discount in such a situation, check the discount. This is a determined at the time of supply or before supply or after supply. That means this discount is a financial discount or trade discount. Accordingly, the GST treatment has been done or not. We also need to verify that the place of supply has been correctly determined or not. Because if there will be a wrong determination of place of supply in such a situation, a interstate supply will be treated as intrastate or intrastate supply will be treated as interstate. So this will create unnecessary litigation. So we need to be very much careful from that perspective. If the taxpayer has claimed any refund during that particular financial year, in such a situation, we just need to ensure that person is eligible to claim the refund. The refund calculation is perfect or not. All these required documents is maintained or not. When the refund has been claimed, if there will be any or rejected refund, in such a situation, the same has been credited to electronic credit ledger or not. The details which is provided on the GST in common portal is correct or not. Purchase register is maintained or not. The HSN code wise classification is perfect or not. जो मैं परचेज कर रहा हूं, that is completely reconciled with my sales, with my opening stock, with my closing stock. Because whenever departmental authority will come for the audit, business audit, departmental audit. At that time, they will check your profit and loss account. From opening stock, from closing stock, from purchase, from sales, they are going to compare. And they will easily find out that you have done certain fake invoicing. How? Because they are going to calculate the ratios between the opening and closing stock. So while filing the GSTR 9 and 9C, we should be very much efficient. We also need to check that the proper books of accounts has been maintained or not. All the required books of accounts maintained electronically or manually. All these books of accounts are maintained at the place of business or not. These type of things we just need to ensure. So merely filing of GSTR 9 and 9C is not sufficient. We need to focus on certain very important part, lawful part of the GSTR 9 and 9C. So in this particular course, we have started our discussion from the basics of GSTR 9, that these are the requirement of GSTR 9. And then after we have covered the various tables of the GSTR 9, analysis of various document tables with example. Then after we have started our discussion on the GSTR 9C, that is reconciliation statement, and the analysis of various tables. And we have covered certain important points, certain important questions which we should be checked before filing the 9 and 9C. And these points are very much required. And to confirm these points, it will not take much more time. Maximum work you need to assign to your staff, you need to assign to the accountant of your client that will provide you the report. So you just need to analyze that particular report. You just need to prepare your observation. You just need to discuss the same with your client and then file your 9 and 9C. I know जो क्वेश्चन पे हमने बात की, these questions are not directly affect the 9 and 9C, but indirectly they are affecting in a very huge way the GSTR 9 and 9C. Hence, we should be very much careful while filing the GSTR 9 and 9C. So, in this particular video course, I have tried to cover all these concepts which is there in this book. Although when you will get this particular book in such a situation, first watch the video. After that, you can go through with this book. Try to make certain notes. Study like you are a student. Because जब मैं student होकर के पढ़ूंगा ना, at that time, I will learn a lot of things. It will be very easy for me. Try to spread these videos as much as possible. Share with as much as possible so that our returns will be filed in a very correct way. Our returns will be filed in a perfect way. There will be no any single mistake in the returns. Although if you have any question, any doubt, any point in future, you may directly connect with me over the WhatsApp number. I am going to provide you this facility. Okay. And I request everyone, after watching this video, whatever will be your feedback about the particular video and the book, you just need to share with me over this WhatsApp number. It will be a very much helpful thing for me. Okay. So once again, thank you everyone for joining, for listening, and for buying our book. We have also other books related to GST law, related to question and answers, related to case study. You may go through with that. We have a lot of GST courses, a lot of knowledge-based courses on GST, on indirect taxation. You may go through with our website, www.batukconsultancy.com. On that website, you may get a lot of things. On our website, a lot of blogs are there. We have also one specific thing that we have analyzed around 500 case studies, okay, in 3 minutes video. That means one case study has been covered in 3-minute video with the detailed blog, because it is not possible for everyone to learn the blog or to read the blog completely, और वो interesting भी नहीं होता है. So that we have designed or we have created certain case studies, और अभी भी उसके अंदर कंटिन्यू जो भी रिसेंटली केस स्टडी आती है, विल क्रिएट अ वीडियो फॉर 3 minutes and will upload it on our website www.batukconsultancy.com. So you can go through with that. You will definitely enjoy. You will get the expertise in the GST field. Whatever will be your comment, valuable feedback, you may connect with me. Once again, thank you for listening and learning with us. Thank you once again. Bye bye.